7 tests avoidants do before falling in love. Hey everyone, today we're going to pull back the curtain on something that drives so many people crazy in dating. Those moments when you feel like you're connecting with someone, but they seem distant, hesitant, even a little scared. You're not imagining it. You're dealing with an avoidant. And here's the secret. They test you, not with a checklist and a clipboard, but with emotional experiments they run on you without even realizing it. And if you don't know how to navigate these tests, you'll either end up frustrated, chasing, or worse, thinking you're not enough. So today, I'm going to give you the 7 tests avoidants do before they fall in love, and more importantly, how you can hack every single one. Ready? Let's dive in. When you're dealing with someone who has avoidant tendencies, it's easy to start taking their behavior personally. You might think they're playing games, trying to hurt you, or simply not interested. But the truth is, most avoidant people aren't even consciously aware that they're testing you. Their behaviors, pulling back, becoming distant, going silent, aren't calculated manipulations. They're subconscious defenses that have been built over years of learning that closeness can sometimes feel dangerous. What looks like mixed signals is often just an internal tug of war inside them. One part of them craves intimacy, but another part feels terrified that closeness will lead to suffocation, loss of independence, or even heartbreak. These internal battles aren't rational. They're emotional reflexes formed long before you ever entered the picture. So when they pull away after a great date or seem to create distance just when things are getting good, it's not because they're trying to punish you or confuse you. It's because getting closer triggered an old fear response. And without realizing it, they're watching to see how you'll react. If you respond with panic, chase them, or try to force closeness, it confirms their fear that love equals pressure. But if you can stay grounded, warm, and secure, even when they create space, you send a completely different signal. You show them that intimacy doesn't have to cost freedom, that connection doesn't have to mean losing themselves. In many ways, they're subconsciously scanning for safety, not in the sense of whether you're a good person, but whether love with you feels safe to their nervous system. This is why recognizing that the tests are subconscious is so important. If you misinterpret their behavior as coldness or manipulation, you'll end up reacting from a place of hurt or anger, and that can create exactly the dynamic both of you fear, one where connection feels unsafe or pressured. But if you can step back and see their actions for what they are, a protective mechanism, not a personal attack, you can choose a different response. You can respond with patience instead of panic, curiosity instead of criticism, steadiness instead of insecurity. And over time, that consistency is what helps dismantle the walls they built long before they ever met you. One of the most confusing things about dating someone with avoidant tendencies is how they seem to test your emotional stability, often without warning. They might cancel plans at the last minute, go silent for a day or two, or suddenly seem less enthusiastic than they did before. To someone who is emotionally invested, this can feel like rejection or punishment, but beneath the surface, they're often not trying to hurt you. They're actually watching, almost instinctively, to see how you handle moments of uncertainty. They're asking, without words, if I step back, will you collapse? Will you chase? Will you need me to fix your feelings? Avoidants have a deep fear of being engulfed by someone else's emotional needs. Somewhere in their past, they learned that when someone got too close, it meant losing their own autonomy. So they test, often unconsciously, to find out if you will become a source of pressure. If you react to their distance with panic, anger, accusations, or by demanding reassurance, it reinforces their belief that relationships equal obligation and emotional burden. But if you respond with calm, self-assurance, and a sense of internal stability, it does the opposite. It tells them that connection with you doesn't have to come with a heavy emotional cost. When an avoidant cancels a plan or disappears for a bit, the key is to hold on to your center. Instead of sending frantic messages, trying to re-secure their attention or making them feel guilty, you quietly communicate that your life remains full and satisfying either way. It doesn't mean you pretend not to care. It means you show through your energy and your actions that while you enjoy them, You don't need them to regulate your own emotions. Responding with warmth, a simple "no worries, hope everything's okay," while staying focused on your own happiness, sends a powerful signal. It shows that you're not fragile. It shows that you're someone who adds value to their life, not someone who demands emotional caretaking. In doing this, you slowly disarm the fear that deep down drives their avoidant behaviors. The reality is, for someone who fears losing themselves in relationships, neediness feels like quicksand. Independence feels like oxygen. When you demonstrate that you can handle moments of uncertainty without clinging, chasing, or collapsing, you become the safest kind of person for them to grow closer to, the one who represents connection without entrapment. And over time, they begin to associate you not with stress, but with a feeling of relief. When someone with avoidant tendencies starts to feel connected to you, it often triggers a deep-rooted fear of losing their individuality or personal space. One of the subtle but important ways they test whether they are safe with you is by setting small boundaries. They might say they need a night to themselves, prefer to go on a solo trip, or simply ask for more time between conversations. To them, these moments are crucial for maintaining a sense of autonomy. How you react in those moments becomes a test of whether you can respect their boundaries without making it about you. Many people, especially when feeling close to someone, instinctively take a request for space as a rejection. It feels personal, even if it isn't meant that way. If you respond with hurt, guilt tripping, or trying to pull them back in, it sends a clear message that your need for closeness overrides their need for independence. This triggers the avoidant person's core fear that intimacy will come at the cost of their freedom, and often leads them to pull away even further. The way to hack this test is surprisingly simple but powerful. Celebrate their boundaries. Treat their need for space as normal, valid, and even attractive. When they express a boundary, respond in a way that shows you're not threatened by it. A calm, supportive response. Something as simple as, "Of course, I hope you have a great time," communicates volume. It shows that you respect not just their need for space, but also their right to take care of themselves without needing to manage your emotions in the process. It's important to understand that respecting their boundaries doesn't mean disappearing completely or playing hard to get. It's about holding a secure, open space where they can return without fear of punishment. You remain warm and receptive, not cold and withdrawn. You are simply showing that intimacy with you is flexible, not fragile. That you are strong enough to give space without feeling abandoned, and available enough to welcome connection when it naturally resumes. Over time, this creates an environment where an avoidant person feels increasingly safe letting their guard down. They learn through experience that being close to you doesn't require them to surrender their sense of self. They don't have to choose between being loved and being free. And once they trust that love doesn't erase who they are, they begin to offer more closeness on their own terms, not because they feel forced, but because with you, it finally feels safe. When an avoidant person starts opening up emotionally, even just a little, it's often a big deal for them. Bigger than it might seem on the surface. Vulnerability feels risky because it invites closeness, and closeness can stir up the old fear of being hurt, trapped, or overwhelmed. So what often happens is that right after they share something real, an insecurity, a difficult story, a moment of real feeling, they'll instinctively pull away. They may go quiet, act cold, or even seem to undo the closeness they just created. It's not because they regretted opening up. It's because vulnerability triggered their survival instincts. They are testing the waters, often unconsciously, asking, is it safe for me to be seen? The mistake many people make in these moments is putting a magnifying glass on the vulnerability. They might gush over it, make it a huge topic of discussion, or push for even more closeness immediately afterward. Although the intention is usually good, trying to affirm the connection for an avoidant, it can feel overwhelming, even suffocating. It creates pressure around the thing they're most afraid of, losing control over their own emotional boundary. The hack here is learning to stay steady when they show vulnerability. Treat their openness like it's natural, not like it's a rare prize you've finally won. If they share something deep, listen with care, respond with empathy, but resist the urge to make it a bigger deal than it is. Let it breathe. When you stay emotionally grounded and non-intrusive after they open up, you create a powerful sense of safety. You're showing them that being vulnerable with you doesn't immediately lead to more expectations, demands, or loss of personal control. Sometimes the best thing you can do after they reveal something intimate is to lightly transition back to normalcy. Share a joke, talk about something casual, keep the conversation moving forward without freezing the moment in emotional amber. This shows them that intimacy can be integrated naturally into life rather than becoming an intense, high-stakes event. Avoidants aren't testing your reaction to be cruel. They are testing to see whether vulnerability will cost them their sense of balance. If you can meet those small moments with calmness and stability, neither clinging to them nor recoiling from them, you build trust in a place where they usually expect pain. Over time, they begin to learn that opening up to you feels not just tolerable, but actually good. A quiet, stable kind of good they didn't know they could have. One of the most important things an avoidant person looks for, often without even realizing it, is emotional consistency. At their core, avoidants are sensitive to unpredictability in relationships. They've learned somewhere along the way that closeness can come with volatility, sudden demands, emotional outbursts, or shifting expectations, and that inconsistency is dangerous. So once they start connecting with you, part of them is constantly quietly scanning to see if you are emotionally stable or if you'll change once things get more intense. It's not just about being kind when things are easy. Anyone can be charming on a first date, attentive when they're feeling in control, or patient when everything is going their way. But what avoidants are tuned into is how you behave when the energy shifts. When plans fall through, when you feel insecure, when they take a little longer to reply than you'd like. Will you become passive-aggressive? Will you lash out? Will you dramatically withdraw or punish them emotionally? These are the moments they notice the most, and their internal alarm systems are highly sensitive to sudden shifts in your emotional tone. The key to passing this particular test is simple, but not always easy. Remain consistent. Be the same grounded, warm, and self-respecting person whether things feel smooth or whether things get confusing. When they pull away, don't punish them. When they come back, don't act cold and make them earn back your attention. Maintain a steady emotional baseline that says, I'm not going to be unpredictable just because circumstances change. This steadiness becomes incredibly reassuring to someone who expects instability as the norm. Consistency doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending you're okay with things that bother you. It means addressing issues calmly and directly without creating drama or emotional chaos. It's about showing that your emotional state isn't a wild pendulum swing based on how much attention they are giving you at any given moment. You value connection, but you don't need constant reassurance to stay centered. Over time, emotional consistency builds a foundation of safety that few people ever offer an avoidant partner. They begin to trust that being close to you doesn't mean walking on eggshells or bracing for emotional blow-ups. Instead of feeling like they have to protect themselves from your reactions, they start to feel like they can relax into the relationship. And for someone who spent their life feeling like closeness equals chaos, that calm presence is what makes you stand out in a way they can't help but be drawn toward. At some point in the connection, an avoidant person will put forward a message, either subtly or directly, that they don't really need anyone. They might emphasize how independent they are, how much they enjoy their alone time, or how perfectly happy they are being single. This isn't because they want to push you away, and it's not necessarily a sign that they aren't interested. It's a subconscious way of testing whether you will try to threaten or erode that independence. They want to see if you'll react by clinging harder, trying to convince them they need you, or becoming a burden on their freedom. For someone who values self-sufficiency so deeply, even a whiff of emotional dependency can set off alarm bells. It reminds them of relationships where they felt trapped, obligated, or smothered. So when they talk about their self-sufficiency, They're not just sharing information, they're watching. They want to see, will you respect their independence or will you treat it like a problem to be solved? The smartest way to handle this test is to fully, genuinely honor their independence, and not just with words, but through your attitude and actions. Celebrate the fact that they have a full, vibrant life. Encourage them to pursue their passions, their friendships, and their alone time. Smile when they tell you about a solo trip they want to take. Show them that you admire their self-sufficiency rather than feeling threatened by it. At the same time, it's important to subtly model that independence yourself. Lead your own rich, meaningful life. Pursue your interests, maintain your friendships, and invest in your personal growth. When you demonstrate that you are a complete, self-reliant person, it changes the dynamic completely. Instead of feeling like they have to fend off someone who might consume their time and energy, they see you as an equal. Someone who adds joy and depth to their life without demanding anything they aren't ready to give. In this way, you are hacking their fear without ever having to argue or explain. You're letting them see that love doesn't have to be a loss of freedom. It can actually enhance freedom. Offering support without suffocation, intimacy without invasion. Over time, this shifts the entire emotional equation for them. You are no longer a potential threat to their autonomy. You become a partner they can freely choose without feeling like they have to lose themselves in the process. And for someone who has spent much of their life protecting their independence at all costs, that is a feeling so rare and relieving that they won't want to let it go. The truth is, loving an avoidant isn't about playing games, pretending you don't care, or suppressing your needs. It's about learning how to be the calm in the storm they've spent their whole life trying to outrun. It's about showing them through your steadiness, your warmth, and your strength that connection doesn't have to cost freedom, that being loved doesn't have to mean losing yourself. Every small moment you stay grounded, every time you respect their boundaries, every time you meet their vulnerability with gentleness instead of pressure, you're rewriting a story they've believed for years. That closeness only brings pain. And the beautiful thing is, when you build that kind of trust with someone who is used to running, you create the kind of bond that is not just deep, but rare. It's not built on urgency or fear. It's built on real safety, real respect, and real understanding. That's the love that doesn't just capture someone's attention, it captures their soul. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I know relationships can feel complicated and messy, especially when you care deeply. But I also know that with the right tools, a little patience, and a lot of self-worth, you can create connection that are healthy, lasting, and truly extraordinary. Keep leading with strength and kindness. Keep being the person who makes love feel like a home, not a trap. You are capable of so much more than just finding love. You are capable of inspiring it. Thank you again for being here. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you soon.